Alright guys, what is going on? We're going to go for another clunky adventure in the Mitsubishi. This truck is old and loud and squeaky, so if you don't like it, you can change the channel. But I do hope that you stay here with me regardless of the noise, because we've got a lot to talk about. I want to, in this video, talk about the recovery process after the Kundalini experience. Now, an authentic, 100% real, non-delusional, organic Kundalini awakening is going to overstimulate your body, folks. The amount of electricity and energy that moves through your body when you have a Kundalini awakening is so potent that it will literally, and I mean literally, cause every hair on your body to stand upright. You know, your hair, when you have Kundalini moving through you, your body hair acts as an antenna of sorts. And I'm not talking about the hair on your head, which serves a different purpose. I'm actually talking about the hair on like your arms and your legs. That's a subject for a completely different video, and I've discussed this in prior videos on Kundalini. But long story short, folks, your body, especially as an American, does not have the health fortitude, if you will, to be able to withstand Kundalini energy for long periods of time. Your mind is also very fragile as well because of how it's been molded by culture. Your subconscious is out of alignment. There's so many parts of the average person that are broken that causes the mind and the body to go haywire after a Kundalini awakening. So again, I'm not going to get into Kundalini syndrome in this video. I'm not going to get into Kundalini psychosis, which is the root of why people think Kundalini is evil. They don't understand it. They think it's demonic because it can lead people to psychosis because of your programmed mind's inability to integrate the lessons learned from a Kundalini awakening. So, again, folks, it's like a kindergartner suddenly being thrown into a calculus class and being expected to understand it all. You're just not going to be able to. So I don't need to hear any bullshit. Most of the people as well, ladies and gentlemen, who, claim they've experienced Kundalini, they haven't. I've gone to these Kundalini yoga classes and seminars after having experienced Kundalini and witnessed what these people were saying. And I'm here to be honest with you. They're charlatans. They're liars. And a lot of them just believe things that are false. Like they believe that like a lot of these Kundalini yoga classes, they'll have a group of people doing like asanas, and the Kundalini teacher will be like, "Oh, the Kundalini is moving through my back. Oh my goodness!" And I'm giving Shaktipat to all of you, and these people are so gullible, not all of them, but many, that they actually believe they're receiving Shaktipat. Yet you have no clairvoyance after the Shaktipat. You're not experiencing any perceptual fluidity by way of the assemblage point shifting or moving. Kundalini causes your assemblage point to shift. It can also cause it to move. Your energy field, you can actually start seeing it. You can pierce through the veil of the electromagnetic spectrum. Your perceptual fluidity returns. 99.999% of the time, when this happens, when Kundalini moves through your spine, it causes visionary states that are similar to psychedelic experiences. In fact, they're far more advanced than the typical psychedelic experience because it's your body releasing its own psychedelic reserves. You see, you're a walking pharmacy. This whole experience, to a large extent, is a psychedelic experience, just life in general. But most people don't understand that. You see, Kundalini causes your body to release certain chemicals that allow you to see reality the way that you were designed to see. But since you've been enslaved by culture and you've had your perceptual fluidity locked in a very non-salubrious position or engagement, you don't see shit anymore, and you are a glorified slave. You think you're the shit, you have this narcissistic ego complex, I'm successful, I make money, and all your other stupid worldly attachment bullshit. Those of us with eyes to see can see right through your facade. A lot of you people are glorified babies trapped in the bodies of adults, and you think you've got it all figured out. You have a massive, overly inflated ego, and you don't even know that you're in a state of mind control. You literally are in a state of mind control while thinking that you've got it all figured out because of your PhDs and your MDs and oh my goodness, I'm so great, and oh, the illusions of this realm are through the roof. And this is a very illusionary realm, folks. You can think you've got it all figured out, and usually when you do, it means that you're lost. We have got to stop being so comfortable with our position in life. Now, that may sound kind of crazy, ladies and gentlemen, but it's true. With the way that things have been set up here in the Matrix, if you're comfortable, if you think that this is normal, it really does show your degree of mind control. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't have a certain level of comfort in this world because you don't want to be walking around insane. But comfort, when I refer to it in that way, should come from your foundation, the strength of your character, not the amount of financial success that you have. Financial success is crucial to live in this matrix. The matrix requires you to pay to play. That's the type of world we live in. I'm not anti-money. However, I'm anti-money when it leads people to thinking that the sum total of their success is predicated upon the amount of money they have in their bank account. How many pieces of paper with dead presidents or Freemasons on them that they've collected. I mean, come on, folks. The key is to become enlightened, to experience Kundalini, to have your perceptual fluidity reattained, to have your assemblage point shifted and moved to a salubrious position so that you can get your mind back. And then once you have your sanity, your true sanity, reestablished from the enlightenment process and it moving your soul and awakening your Ba and reinvigorating your Ka, then, ladies and gentlemen, then you know how to invest. Then you know how to use money to benefit the whole. Most people don't know how to do that. This is just an insane fucking prison that we're in, folks, and Kundalini's your way out. So we kind of went off on a tangent there. But long story short, and to summarize things, most people in the United States are not ready to have a Kundalini awakening. They might think that they are, but most of the people who think that they are value their sanity far too much to be meddling with Kundalini because it will drive you insane in order to get you to see your mental flaws that are a byproduct of culture and your mind control. So then, in doing so, you can rebuild yourself on true sanity. You see, sanity by the system's standards is actual insanity. Everything's been inverted, folks. Everything is like in the upside down world. This is the underworld. Kundalini taught me that in my early 20s. This is a purgatory realm of sorts where you're being sold a very one-sided story and they expect you to believe in it. And by believing in it and playing around and engaging in it, folks, this illusionary realm with all the lies and the bullshit about your body, you've been lied about your body, the earth, all this stuff, you create the true ego, which is the false version of yourself that has been molded by culture. So again, the problem with these videos is I can go off in a million different directions. Let's stay on point. Most people are not ready for Kundalini because they value their false security. They value their sanity far too much. Now, again, that may sound crazy and insane in and of itself for me to say that people value their sanity too much. Why would you want to let go of your sanity? Well, you have to understand what I mean by that statement. Again, sanity by the system's standards, the sanity that people hold on to, that Kundalini dissolves, is actual insanity. But because you've learned to look at it as sanity, you use your current worldview about yourself and how you relate to the world and your programming. You use this to navigate through this hell realm, this purgatory. You use it to have like a foundation to deal with the insanity. All of this is unconscious. Most people don't know that they've built mechanisms to deal with the insanity of reality because they live in the front of their conscious mind. They've never pierced the veil and pulled the curtain back and delved into the unconscious and the subconscious layers of themselves. So your mind control is extensive, and most people have no clue how deep it actually goes. And you have a lot of charlatans and idiots on YouTube and, all these people online acting like they're these mind power gurus. And you can tell just by looking at them. When you've had your assemblage point shifted via the Kundalini awakening, you can just look at someone and tell they're full of shit. So the spiritual movement is full of people who are glorified liars who actually think that they're not lying because they've never experienced the truth. They think that a Kundalini awakening is like, yesterday I felt this energy moving through my back, and while I was in the shower and I had a Kundalini awakening. No. When you have a Kundalini awakening, ladies and gentlemen, you see God. It moves through you. You become something far greater than what you are actually, what you currently are. You leave the energetic configuration of humanity behind. You become a monster of sorts. You become the beast. You become angelic and beastly. It's very difficult to explain, and some of the mysteries of this are contained and can be found and decoded within the symbol of the Baphomet. There's various other symbols that need to be decoded, and we can use these symbols as kind of rubrics or maps of sorts to awaken the Kundalini within us. But that's besides the point. I have my video on the Baphomet that you can watch if you're interested in learning more about that, where I decode the symbolism of the Baphomet. The Baphomet is a Kundalini diagram. It's like a circuit board of sorts that speaks to the subconscious. But you're afraid of it because you're afraid of everything, because you were sold the Christian story. You believe that, these imprisoned people, Adam and Eve, were like the cause of the fall, and get a grip. I'm tired of it. A lot of you guys just believed this Christian nonsense without even questioning it, without even really internalizing it. Get a grip. I'm not here to bash people, but the level of immaturity in the adults here is just remarkable. So because of the average individual's inability to be able to integrate the experiences that are experienced during the height of the climax of a Kundalini awakening, most people, let's just face it, they'll be driven insane by the Kundalini, and this has happened thousands of times. And because of that, people who actually do experience full-blown Kundalini, they'll either experience incredible, they'll be debilitated to the point of insanity, or, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not even going to go off in that direction. Let's just stay on point. So, if you watch the movie The Matrix, the first Matrix film, it's about the Kundalini awakening within Neo. And look what happens to Neo. He has to leave his entire fucking world behind. He has to change everything in the flash of an eye. That's similar to what happens during these Kundalini awakenings, folks. Everything gets left behind. Everything has to change. You guys think that a Kundalini awakening is going to be like these angels ringing these bells for you and wiping your ass. That's not how it works. There's a certain level of destruction that comes from Kundalini awakening because of how you've been programmed. The Kundalini is a motherly force that destroys to rebuild. It has no sympathy for your sensibilities. It wants you to be the best version of yourself, and it destroys your ego. It destroys, like Thor's hammer, which is a symbolism of the Cossacks, essentially, the Kundalini awakening in the Cossacks. It destroys the old to build the new. So, you guys who love your 9-to-5 jobs and your simple lives and all this other shit, you're not going to be able to handle Kundalini. You're not. I mean, seeing angels and witnessing the glory of these hyperdimensional realms outside the perceptual blinders that you've been given. To witness the angelic kingdoms, to witness the Enochian kingdoms, is enough to drive a stable man insane. The glory of God's kingdoms are remarkably beautiful, and you have no fucking clue. Witnessing things of that type of beauty are remarkable. I mean, it's like, it's literally like seeing, it's not literally like seeing, it is seeing new worlds. Worlds that you're not supposed to see. You see, Kundalini, I remember shortly after my first full-blown Kundalini awakening, because within the Western or the people in the United States, the Kundalini will wake up and then it will show you things, and then you'll go back to your normal consciousness because your body can't handle it. So during the height of my first full-blown Kundalini awakening, once it wore off and I went back to back into the Matrix, I kept thinking, God, is this legal? Was that even legal to do that? Like, these states of consciousness, we're not supposed to be entering into these, because this is a prison system here, folks. Which is why once you experience a Kundalini awakening, a real one, not this fake New Age bullshit that people think is Kundalini, where they lie to themselves during these yoga classes, but if you actually do experience a full-blown Kundalini awakening, you will, by default, become a targeted individual. And in order to understand that, you have to understand electromagnetics. You also have to understand the astral plane. There are certain things in the inorganic realm that notice you when you enter into their world. When you open up your chakras, your pylons, your Shen centers, and you blast wide the portals into these hyperdimensional wavelengths, there are things on those planes that notice you. And once you're noticed, you can't just like pull the curtain over your head. So it's just, there's so many things I want to say that it's just remarkable, folks, the way we've been lied to. I mean, most people have no clue just how insanely advanced our consciousness is supposed to be, because, again, we don't have the metaphysical antennas erect anymore. We are dead. We are partially dead. This is purgatory. This is the underworld. I mean that literally. So when I had my first full-blown Kundalini awakening, I was reborn. I had to start over from square one. It gave me a near-death experience. I don't even know if I should be talking about these things. It publicly, it killed me, resurrected me, and I was born anew. I saw the angel of death. I went through a death experience, and I was reborn. On the cusp of Easter at about 11:59 p.m., on the cusp of the day before Easter, I had my first full-blown Kundalini awakening while holding myself in a asana known as Sarvagasana. I've explained this a million times. The parameters were right astrologically, psychologically, anatomically, biologically. It was my time, and I experienced what I experienced. And I'll never be the same. In many ways, shapes, and forms, it's made my life much more difficult. It just does. It makes your life incredibly difficult. So, it's difficult for me to get on here and talk about these things because there's a level of projection of my ego that I fear comes off, and it's not intended. I don't mean to sound egotistical by saying that I've experienced these enlightened states of consciousness. I'm just being completely honest with you. What's the point of having a channel if I'm not going to be honest? Should I just hold on to it and keep it a secret? No. I'd rather try to do something with my experiences and push reality in a more spiritually advanced direction. Or at least try to do so. So, after my first full-blown Kundalini awakening, every little piece of my life was dismantled. Life became very difficult. Social situations and circles that I used to be in became difficult because my assemblage point had shifted to such an extent that my entire energy field took on a new configuration. And that's what I mean by being reborn. I don't mean I became a baby and was shot out the birth canal. Although there's some interesting correlations I could say about that. But I'm not in this video. But what I mean is rebirth happens through energetic reacquisition of particular points in the energetic sphere, your aura. Your assemblage point shifts to certain positions, and if it gets locked there, you experience entirely new worlds. But now, we've talked about the assemblage point in past videos, so I'm not going to get into it in this video, but folks, rebirth, the Kundalini moves the assemblage point to a new position. You start to filter in all of the holy shit, someone just got into a crash. You start to take in all the energetic filaments on a new position in your energy field or outside of it, and it causes your consciousness to pierce through the electromagnetic spectrum in a completely different way than you did prior to your awakening. It's a difficult thing to explain, and I would suggest reading Carlos Castaneda's book, The Art of Dreaming, to learn more about the assemblage point, although in other volumes of his, he discusses the assemblage point as well. But The Art of Dreaming is a really good, I wouldn't say a place to start, but it's an excellent book. So the rebirth process, or the trauma that happens to the mind through Kundalini, comes by way of energetic reacquisition of new positions of the assemblage point within or outside of the energetic field. It causes you to subtle shifts in the assemblage point can cause a complete change in your mind. and how you look at reality. So when something like Kundalini comes along, it forcibly moves the assemblage point to a new position, and suddenly reality takes on a completely new form. It's insanely beautiful and incredible in so many different ways that I've spent hours and hours and hours just pondering the positions of the assemblage point and how many energetic potentials we have by learning to move our energy field around. I mean, holy shit, you guys, we've been sold a bill of goods. Stop fucking wasting time. Become what you want to become. Stop accepting limits that were given to you by culture. You have the ability to become fucking enlightened. You have the ability to do things that are being told to you by the experts. They're telling you that these things are impossible. You guys just believe anything. You believe culture. You believe the experts. You believed all your teachers growing up. And although I do my best to have patience for that because I was there at one point, but I mean, come on, folks. It gets to the point where you just start lacking empathy. So, I mean, Jesus Christ. Jesus fucking Christ. Excuse my language. It's time to wake up. The Kundalini experience will put you on the path of the right-hand path, seeker, and through it, we will do that ingeniously or intentionally. The Ascetian energy, ladies and gentlemen, the Ophidian energy of Kundalini will put you on a path deliberately that will lead to failure so that you learn what's right and wrong in the process. And that's something that's very difficult to explain, but it will nudge you into the right-hand path only to get you to see that there's no validity in that path. And that's a difficult thing to explain. And most people think that, oh, well, the opposite of the right-hand path is the left-hand path. Oh, it's the dark path. No, it's not. The left-hand path is the path of balance between both paths. The right-hand path is a mentally ill garbage path that is perpetuated largely by certain forms of mysticism revolving around the Kabbalistic tree of life. And I'm not going to get into that in this video. I'm bringing up little secrets in small doses and then shifting, kind of like the assemblage point shifts. We're shifting. So the assemblage point is something that Carlos Castaneda was taught about from the Yaqui Indian sorcerer, Don Juan Matus. Lots of wisdom in those books, folks. You might want to fucking start, you might want to start reading stuff like that instead of watching the Disney and all the other garbage. But there's symbolism in Disney. Yeah, it's garbage. I mean, get away from the goddamn television. Wake up. You got to snap out of your trance at some point. You're not a child anymore. You are. You're just not the I'm not going to get into that. I don't mean to bash people, but I mean, enough's enough. Yoga, all these things that we talk about, the full body relaxation exercise, contemplation of oneself, the deletion of self-importance. Self-importance, ladies and gentlemen, requires a massive amount of unconscious energy to withhold. So Castaneda talks about that as well, deleting self-importance. And that doesn't mean that you just become a slob that doesn't brush his or her teeth. It means that you let go of the projection that you try to project to the world of because deep down you want everyone to love you. You got to get rid of that. There's so much energy that is used to try to get other people to like you or to accept you. It takes massive amounts of energy. And Castaneda was taught by Don Juan that an energetic redisposition, or not redisposition, energetic redeployment of one's energy is crucial to walking the razor's edge, as Samael Onmayar called it, or becoming a sorcerer. A sorcerer is someone who can shift the assemblage point and can enter into states of non-ordinary reality and communicate with the inorganic beings. Kundalini has a lot to do with this, yada, yada, yada. But where the hell was I going with that, folks? Again, there's so many things I could say. This video could be 4 hours long and we'd still be scraping the tip of the iceberg. I try to shift between multiple subjects to paint an overall rough draft, if you will, that can be built upon. It's like I'm trying to make a coloring book that's black and white that you can fill in with color by looking into these subjects and experimenting with what the stuff that I'm talking about. But I was gonna make this video a video about nootropics and how they helped me recover from the trauma of Kundalini, because Kundalini it burns your energy reserves to a large extent, folks, because there's so much electricity moving through you, and the shifting of the assemblage point is so drastic that it causes your mind to enter into non-salubrious habitual positions that cause you to lose energy. Kundalini does this, in my opinion, intentionally, so that you can learn how to build yourself the right way. It's a motherly energy, folks. And what does a mother do for her cubs, for instance, with like bears? Well, there's a certain amount of protection that comes for her cubs. I mean, the mother takes care of her cubs, but there's also a certain level of structured abandonment, if you want to call it that, where the mother has to nudge the children or the cubs in the right direction and let them kind of learn on their own while still being protective. Kundalini is very much like that. So the trauma that you experience from a Kundalini awakening is a holy gift. You just don't look at it like a gift because you expect everything to come easy. You don't find the friction of turmoil to be beneficial for the movement of your vehicle, your car, your ba. You're brainwashed. You're fucking brainwashed. So, again, maybe we'll make a video about nootropics and how they can be used to like rebuild the brain and the anatomy. They can be used as very profound tools on the razor's edge after a Kundalini awakening. I'm not going to name any names, but some of the racetams, the family of smart drugs, that are these derivatives of the original smart drug, paracetam, they can help. There's so many things that they can help with. These racetams work on the cholinergic system. They use, when you take them, they burn through your choline reserves, and there, to this date, other than some medicinal mushrooms, some sacraments that I'm not allowed to talk about here on YouTube, but the sacraments, the medicinal mushrooms, some certain synthetics in the racetams, and some other nootropics, there's nothing that has worked as well for recovering from the trauma of Kundalini, because there is a traumatic phase to Kundalini. It comes by default. It's part of the hero's journey. The hero's journey is initiated when you suckle from the teat of the Divine Mother, and then you're left, the newborn baby, out in the midst of the underworld to rebuild yourself. What do I mean by the teat of the Divine Mother? Well, Kundalini awakening will take over the muscles in your mouth, and I'm going to say an occult secret here, and then I'm going to leave it at that. Any great real alchemist, not just someone who makes teas and acts like a potion crafter or an alchemist, any real great alchemist who's successfully moved their assemblage point knows that to wake up the Merkaba and the aura, it's done through the tip of the tongue. This is largely where the serpent symbolism of the serpent's hiss comes from. When the Kundalini awakens, it takes over the motor control of your tongue, and it rubs very specific energetic meridian points in your mouth uncontrollably. This wakes up certain regions in your brain that causes a direct kind of like hydraulic pump action within your coccyx to awaken Kundalini. So no one's talking about this. No one's giving you these secrets. And for some fucking weird reason, this channel gets like 300 views per video. It's disgusting. It's deplorable, but it is what it is. 300 is, a lot of people when you consider what 300 people looks like in a cafeteria room or a stadium. That's a pretty good audience. I'm happy with it, but I do believe that these messages deserve far more views than what they're getting. Now, I'm not going to get into any conspiratorial nonsense about how this channel might be, regulated. I'm not 100% sure. All I know is that after my experiences and what I've seen outside of the programmed senses that operate within a very confined region of the electromagnetic spectrum, I will say that anything's fucking possible, including that. But at the end of the day, if they wanted me off YouTube, they could just delete me. Alternatively, it could just be that a very small percentage of people actually even give a shit, and that's why this channel doesn't get a lot of views. Now, I'm not saying that my channel can't be better and that my message couldn't be articulated better, and I'm not saying that that's not part of the reason why maybe my views I don't get more views. Who the fuck knows? I don't give a shit at this point. All we can do is the right thing, and the right thing, ladies and gentlemen, can be defined by a million different people in a million different ways, but I've come to the conclusion that the right thing, or the right way to live your life, is to seek the truth and nothing but the truth. And the truth, ladies and gentlemen, is that your body is the mystery vehicle of life. It is encapsulated within a quantum vortex of sorts, a vacuum, if you will, of energy known as an auric field. This auric field connects to a larger plane of consciousness that I call the God grid, that is made of various and infinite array of vast conscious filaments and fibers of sacred geometric tendrils, if you will, that are aware of one another. This energy filters through your energetic field and gives you awareness and perception. This is done through the assemblage point and its position. To awaken your consciousness, the assemblage point has to shift. We've gone over this a million fucking times. This is why the Toltecs, this is why pretty much every ancient civilization, whether big or small, that was worth a damn, they venerated the psychedelic sacraments. It's because these compounds were designed by nature to be used as spiritual first aid tools, if you will, to be able to move the assemblage point. These compounds, such as, I'm not going to name any names, but certain compounds, ladies and gentlemen, when ingested, cause your consciousness to be shifted into entirely alien realms in comparison to where they are now, which is, a cultural pig pen. Your consciousness has been in the same point your whole life for the most part, ever since your imagination was stolen from you and remolded by the time you were about 10 to 12. You're the byproduct of an enslaving system. Your assemblage point is locked into a very specific position. So these psychedelic sacraments, I'm not recommending that you take them, because most of you wouldn't even know how to take them properly. You go to parties and you take these and act like an idiot. But I'm not pointing my fingers at any of my subscribers. I'm speaking in generalities based on how statistically humans behave. They act like reckless morons. There's no contemplation prior to the action that's taken in response to something. So, where the hell was I going with that? Excuse me, folks. Just had a brain fart. These compounds cause the assemblage point to shift, which allows you to experience reality from a different perspective. Experiencing reality from a different perspective allows you to take in more. It's like moving the assemblage point is like allowing color to come into your life, whereas before it was just black and white. You can now see not only the black and white structures holding everything together, but you can see all the colors in between them binding everything. I hope that makes sense. So, there are solutions out there, you guys. There are options. A lot of you have given into just reckless hopelessness on the spiritual path. You try to experience Kundalini, you try to experience states of gnosis, and when you don't get them, you give up. And this often leads to people going to Christianity and mainstream structured organized religion. It's like, oh yeah, I used to try to awaken Kundalini, and I took some ayahuasca and I had a bad experience, so I went to Christ. It's like, what? Do you even know the origins of Christ? They're not what you think it is. So there's all these deceptions, you guys, and sometimes what you think is the cure is actually the deception. So learning to contemplate everything is the mark of a truly wise individual. You question everything, regardless of how good it feels to you, because oftentimes things that feel good to you aren't actually good for you. Heroin feels good. Doesn't mean it's good for you. Shit will kill you colder or deader than a hammer. We've got to snap out of our hypnosis, you guys. And how do we learn to question everything? Well, you could go down 1,000 different avenues, and 1,000 different people will tell you 1,000 different things. Lots of people from schools of philosophy will tell you that certain forms of meditation are good for questioning things. And although that's true, ladies and gentlemen, nothing compares to the deliberate intentional movement of the assemblage point. And if you want to learn more about the assemblage point, you research Castaneda's works. The deliberate, intelligent, ritualized, structured movement or attempt, the intent to move the assemblage point, causes the mind to enter into foreign realms of consciousness, existence. Don Juan Matus would refer to these states of consciousness as states of non-ordinary reality. In these foreign states of reality, you are literally, it's like you're born again. And when you're born again, ladies and gentlemen, it's like you're born into a new world, but these new worlds are perceptual worlds. And in these perceptual worlds, you can escape the confines of the regular thinking cycles that are running on autopilot within these non-optimal assemblage point positions. I hope that makes sense. Shamanism, very specific forms of witchcraft can be used. I'm not talking about this New Age Wiccan bullshit. Gnosticism. There are so many paths that lead to the same source, ladies and gentlemen. Gnosticism being a very valid one, but modern Gnosticism is bastardized as well. When I mean Gnosticism, I'm talking about the pursuit of gnosis. Gnosis, ladies and gentlemen, is enlightenment. Most people won't tell you that, but gnosis is enlightenment. The pinnacle of gnosis is Kundalini. This is what all the fables about gnosis are, and all the, it's so hidden, and everything's written on the wall, and what does it all mean, boo, boo, boo. Kundalini, it's all leading to the same source, ladies and gentlemen. Now, you can say Kundalini's evil and this, that, and the other, even though you've never experienced it because you read some articles online talking about how you needed to remove your chakras and Kundalini's a vampiric serpent that sucks your energy. You're a fool. You just haphazardly believed whatever felt good to you at the time. Don't ever tell me that Kundalini's evil when you've never experienced it. And don't ever tell me Kundalini's evil if you have experienced it just because it made your life more difficult. Difficulty in life is the part of the hero's journey. Waking up these energy centers is not easy, ladies and gentlemen. So get a grip. I love you all. And until next time, peace be with you.